Welcome to Moto Mouths, the podcast for MotoGP, motorsports, and more. I'm your host, Zoe, and like many a MotoGP writer, I wish I were on a boat right now.
I'm your other host, also named Zoe, and honestly, like an F1 driver, I kind of wish I was in Belgium.
All right.
I've never been. I want to go.
Get some fries, some frites.
I'm assuming there's like other things to do in Belgium.
It's mostly just fries, waffles and fries.
Okay, I'm not going to fight you on that one, but someone might.
And the actor Matthias Schoenaerts from the Old Guard.
Yes, he is from the Old Guard. Is he Belgian?
He is Belgian. He's Flemish.
Ooh, what is that? Why is like every 3 weeks this podcast just like a geography lesson for Zoe?
Flemish is a sub-language / like cultural region of Belgium.
Okay.
I believe it's like a mix between French and Dutch German, if I had to put a word to it.
All right. Well, I've learned something today.
Yeah. Shout out to my choir friend, Rosa, who was Belgian. And I said, oh, like the actor Matthias Schoenaerts. And she blinked at me and she goes, that's not even close to how you pronounce that.
I was just thinking as you said his name, I was like, I don't even know how I would approach saying his name because I've read it. No idea.
It's got a lot of vowels.
Yeah.
Anyways, shout out to Matthias.
Shout out to that guy whose name I will not try. Speaking of geography lessons.
Yeah. What's up?
I was just going to say we were going to do some edumacating today.
We were going to do some edumacating. It's still summer break in MotoGP. It will be for the next few weeks. So
I'm dying over here.
Yeah, it's rough.
It's rough.
But we thought that we would go through some of the more frequently asked questions about MotoGP since we think this sport is the greatest and it's about to explode, we think. And we have a lot of listeners who maybe want to get into it more. So Zoe, as our resident MotoGP expert, what do you think people should know?
Okay, not to put you on the spot, but you are, of the two of us, the newer consumer of MotoGP. What were your kind of first initial questions upon hearing about the sport?
What's that thing on their backs?
Oh, that is actually on my list of FAQs because everybody asks about it, including myself when I started watching. Basically, it's called a hump, as you might, expect. But you can do a lot of different things with the space in that hump. It is originally there.
My hump, my lovely lady lumps.
I was waiting for you to do this. It was originally introduced as an aerodynamic tool because it just helps the air flow over like the front of the bike, over their body, down to the back of the bike. I think like some riders put water in there. I don't know why they would because that's additional weight, but there's space. You can put shit in there. It's like a little bag.
They're camel cosplaying.
Honestly, like Camelback should sponsor them.
Or the Turtle Sandbox Company.
That is such a deep cut. Do kids have sandboxes anymore?
I think they have to. Did you have a turtle sandbox?
No.
I did.
All right.
Sorry that I had a real childhood.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure that's what your parents told you.
Wow. What other questions do I have?
Okay, so I do have some questions prepared too. A really common question coming into MotoGP is, obviously a lot of people come in from F1. So what's the deal with satellite teams in MotoGP? Is that the same process as affiliate teams in F1? For example, Haas buys parts from Ferrari, et cetera, et cetera. Is it the same process in MotoGP? It is not the same process. So F1, they buy parts specifically from other manufacturers, but overall, F1 is a series that is based on each team kind of building their own car. MotoGP doesn't quite work like that. You have the big manufacturers. We'll use Ducati as an example. Ducati then will contract with satellite teams. So this year, Ducati's satellite teams are the VR46 team and Gresini. What Gresini and VR46 do is they will purchase last year's version of Ducati's factory bike, and then they essentially have all year to upgrade it and do what they want to it.
It's like how everybody was worried that in 2024, V-Carb would get just like the RB19.
Yeah, it's exactly like that.
And then it didn't happen.
Right. In MotoGP, you would get the RB19, and that is currently why Alex Marquez is P2 in the championship. I'm so glad you brought that up.
If only that had happened.
If only. If wishes were horses.
What?
Okay, you've never heard that?
No.
That's a normal thing.
I don't know.
If wishes were horses, beggars would ride.
Okay.
What do you see? It makes me so mad sometimes. We are from the same region, but we are not.
Exactly. So another question I had when I first started looking at MotoGP was like, well, what team do I root for?
I remember this. I think you were asking me for a Red Bull affiliate and then if there was any Australians, and there is one.
Jack Miller.
You latched onto Jack Miller and then Brad Binder, who were teammates at the time.
I thought for the longest time that Jack Miller was the South African and Brad Binder was the Australian.
Yeah, it's the reverse, but you got the spirit.
I got the spirit. Brad Binder's got a good nose.
He does. And I like his vibe.
He is the finisher.
I need you to stop saying that. At this point, you say that because I hate it.
Yeah.
So short answer to your question is, yeah, there's a lot of teams you can root for. Go forth, my child. Long answer to the question is, yes, there are a lot of teams you can root for. I'm going to give you a quick breakdown. On the one hand, historically, we have the Japanese manufacturers. There used to be quite a few more, but right now we are only talking about Honda and Yamaha. Honda and Yamaha each now have multiple teams. The problem with Honda and Yamaha is that over the course of the last, I would say, 8 years, they've had shining moments, but they have been kind of burdened by years of suckage.
Very much like the historic teams in F1.
Yeah, like I think Williams could be an interesting comparison. They have this history in the sport and history in motor vehicles that you can't deny, but they suck right now, unfortunately. Honda and Yamaha are also some of the more recent pre-Ducati consistent championship winners. They're also the teams most connected to previous titans in the sport. Then we have Ducati, who is currently running the game. Ducati is one of, but not the only European manufacturers who's newer to the sport. Ducati came in and was bad for a very long time. And then Casey Stoner and later on Pecco Bagnaia really brought them up to the forefront of the sport. Also in the European manufacturer section, we have Aprilia, and then we also have KTM, who is the Red Bull affiliate. Aprilia is also Italian in addition to Ducati.
Are there any American teams?
So yeah, Trackhouse is a satellite team of Aprilia, but they are technically owned by an American company. Who's that guy, Justin, who is also in NASCAR, I think. So Aprilia Trackhouse is the only American team that is in MotoGP. There is one in Moto2 that I think is sponsored by OnlyFans, which is kind of sick. And
USA.
Nothing F1 could ever do. There's a real lack of Americans in the sport as a whole. But as we've discussed on this podcast many times, we don't want a dud. We need a winner.
Have there been any women riders in MotoGP?
No, there haven't been. This is one of the least diverse sports in the world. I think you can make that argument. I don't think there's ever been a black MotoGP rider. There haven't been any women who have been in this premier class, but there are young women coming up through feeder series currently right now in Spain. And one of them is an American young woman.
Also, Ana Carrasco was the first woman to score points in Moto3.
Yeah, but not in the premier class.
No, but iconically, instead of having grid girls, she got grid boys.
Iconic, yes. We've talked about it. I think the grid girl concept is horrific. Don't love it. But if it is there, have fun with it.
Yeah, at least they gave her muscly shirtless
the equivalent.
Muscly shirtless men. That's equality.
That is equality. One of Valentino Rossi's guys got his grandmother to do it once when he was in Moto2.
Oh.
Yeah. I think his grandma was his umbrellina.
They call them umbrellinas?
Yes, because they're umbrella girls.
I love it. I love it.
It is a really cute name for a really horrible practice.
And then there is also WCR, which is Women's Circuit Racing, which I keep meaning for us to talk about.
There is a lot of exciting stuff happening over there.
Who is the MotoGP GOAT?
Oh, tough question. Tough question. I'll give you the big names. So we've got Agostini is one of the big names, who's much older, but still live and still kicking and still kind of like a fun time, apparently. I think you could make a solid argument for Sete Gibernau just to be on the list. But I would say the big goats, okay, so we've got Agostini, Kevin Schwantz, Nikki Hayden, definitely.
Our king.
Right? Except we don't do that because we're anti-colonialism.
Our president.
Democratically elected leader. Nikki Hayden.
King in the way that Alexander Hamilton wanted a king.
Right. Right?
Yeah, that happened. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Anyways.
They left that out of the musical, but he was a monarchist.
They did. They sure did leave that out. Getting more into the modern era of that question, I think some of the big names that come up are obviously Valentino Rossi, Casey Stoner, and then Marc Marquez. I think those are like my short list for greatest of all time. I think you've got lots of other names also as part of like tier 2, I guess. But those are the big ones. Personally, I'm crazy biased. That's not a shock. Marc Marquez is the GOAT to me. If nothing else, his 2025 is proving that. But there's no way to really quantifiably answer that question without making a lot of people angry. So
who has the most championships?
Well, actually, I think it's Valentino, but I'm not totally sure.
I think it's Valentino.
Well, that raises the question too, because as more and more people get into the sport, MotoGP is changing the way that they talk about championship volume.
Yes. This is a really good question. Why are Moto 2 and Moto 3 championships currently weighed differently than, say, F2 and F3 championships?
So that's a big thing people see when they come from F1 to MotoGP. F1 has feeder series. F2 and F3, F4, and then a million others. Those are largely what they are established as. With MotoGP, because the history of the sport looking back around the same time.
We forgot
and then
McDouan.
started Oh my God, we did forget McDouan. Forgive me.
McDouan is another legend. McDouan, the famous dad of Jack Doohan, was a MotoGP
I think
legend.
McDouan is the GOAT. Yeah. Like largely because he brought Jack into the world. Like Jesus Christ.
Sorry for
his
forgetting
genes.
you, Mick.
They should have gotten McDouan in that Sydney Sweeney ad. His genes.
Yeah. Yes, they should have. We forgot Mick.
Anyways, justice for McDouan. There's a Doohan corner at every track. I feel like an idiot.
We're not doing okay. I'm sorry.
But yeah, quick plug for Jack Doohan's merch line now that he's like slightly unemployed. He's got a really sick merch line all about the phrase doing okay. I have a t-shirt. I'm obsessed with it.
He is not.
I'm sure he's fine, but I don't think he's doing okay. Okay. Doing interlude over. Okay, so when you look at the history of MotoGP as a sport, previously it was a bunch of classes differentiated by like the type of engine that was in the bike. So they were not developed as feeder series up to a premier class. So that's why you look back and you're like, why was this random dude in Moto 2 for like 10 years? And it's because whatever dude that was really good at that specific class, won a lot of championships at that specific class. When they started building the sport as something that's a little bit more structured and regimented, that's when we get the premier class and then these kind of ideas of feeder series. What actually ended up happening in reality, though, is that by and large, even today, MotoGP athletes do not look at them as like truly feeder series. So you get in the Valentino Rossi and the Marc Marquez of it all, you get Valentino Rossi saying, I'm a 9-time world championship winner. You get Marc Marquez being an 8-time world championship winner because the bones of the sport view championship titles at the Moto 3, Moto 2, MotoGP level as distinct titles that should be recognized as a collective whole. One of the things that is happening now is that MotoGP, partly because of the way they're trying to attract new viewers, that can be confusing if you're just sitting down to like watch and you have no idea what's going on. But they're trying to simplify that for the like cause of new viewers.
Famously, one person who kind of has always thought along those lines was McDouan, who is on the record saying, like, in Formula One, they don't consider like a GP2 or a Formula 3000 or a Formula Renault, back when these were all the kind of feeder series, and not yet Formula 2 and Formula 3 championships on the same caliber as an F1 championship, and MotoGP shouldn't either, which I think is really interesting and kind of speaks to, I think, his relationship with Michael Schumacher and his kind of like being intertwined in F1 a little bit more.
Aspects. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Never thought I'd say this, but McDouan, I disagree. I respect everything about you, but I disagree. I think he has a point now more than he ever did.
I agree. He was like a little ahead of his time for it, I think, because the way that MotoGP is now stratified, I can see the argument. It makes a lot more sense to me as a new viewer. But he was saying this in like the early 2000s, and I don't think that made sense back then.
Yeah, no. I mean, what, in the 90s, I think they were still calling them like the CCs.
Yeah, I mean, he was not a MotoGP rider.
Right.
He only rode in 500 CCs.
Interesting. Yeah. Respect the hustle. Agree to disagree. Mike Doohan. Love you.
Do an interlude. Over.
Do an interlude part 2. Over.
Hey.
Yeah?
They do some really weird shit on the bike, and it scares me. Like, why aren't there legs on the bike?
So I'm assuming you're talking about the dangling leg.
Yeah. What's up with that?
Taking a step back, typically when MotoGP riders go into like a fast corner, you'll see them lean over to turn, and then they'll dangle the leg that is closest to the ground off of the bike. And it's really unsettling the first few times you see it. I totally get that. Unfortunately, I don't have an answer for you. There is categorically no answer for why they do this.
It's not like balance or momentum or anything like that?
No, it was, I think, first introduced by Valentino Rossi. He doesn't really know why he did it, but because
just
he's Valentino
him.
Rossi, they were like, well, he's really fast. Let me try. And now it has become like a foundational aspect of how you ride in MotoGP. People have studied the physics of it. People have studied like the aerodynamics of it. And there is no quantifiable benefit to doing it or not doing it. But everybody who does it is like, yeah, it feels good.
Speaking of Valentino Rossi, and as a segue into the great wide world of motorsports, why does every F1 driver have a total hard-on for Valentino Rossi?
Because they're of a certain age. I think Valentino Rossi was successful for so long and was so majorly successful that if you're in the world of motorsport, you can go anywhere without anyone and not hear all about Valentino Rossi. He was fun. He was camp. He was good, which is the whole point that allowed him to be all of these things. When he was young and crazy successful, he was doing like crazy shit and just like funny to watch. I think that's the thing that really like shot him into stardom. But conveniently, all of this is happening while a lot of the guys who are currently on the grid were kids and were idolizing the best of the best. Valentino was the best of the best at the same time that Michael Schumacher was. He was the best of the best at this just kind of flashpoint of a moment, I think. And they all were kids.
What a great point to switch to the great wide world of motorsports.
Please.
So crazy that the Sunday race in Spa was canceled.
Yeah, like what was that about?
So weird that it just rained and rained and rained, and then we never went racing.
And I just went back to bed.
So just to get into the start of the weekend, I wanted to say to Kimi Antonelli, I would die for this kid. There is no reason why he should have to go and talk to the press while he was crying over a bad result in qualifying. That is unacceptable. Toto Wolff, die.
Have we learned nothing from this happening 8 million times to 8 million people in F1?
What are we doing? What are we doing?
Like, literally, what are we doing?
The reporters don't like it either. You could tell the reporter talking to Kimi was like visibly uncomfortable and just wanted to make sure that Kimi was okay.
This is one of those situations where like Toto, as the team principal, should have said, Kimi's not doing press. We're eating the fee.
Yeah, 100%. That is the appropriate course of action.
You're fucking Mercedes. You can afford it. It's just dark.
Kimi, you cry, I cry. So that's just kind of an overarching thread of the weekend. Toto, die. Shall we take a look at our Spa predictions just to kind of get into it?
Please.
Okay, so you said Lando P1, Oscar P2.
I sure did say that.
Lewis P3.
Yeah. Can I just say?
Yeah.
Lewis, the way Lewis was moving pre-Spa was hysterical. He was posting as if he was an LH44 stan.
Love.
Which, like, iconic. And then even funnier to do all of that, qualify poorly the whole weekend, and then save yourself with a pretty solid recovery drive on Sunday.
Yeah, start from negative infinity and then drive the best out of anybody the whole race.
It was such a Lewis Hamilton weekend.
And then you said Charles Fail King, reverse curse. Look at you go.
Nailed it.
And then I said Max P1, which I got half right.
Yeah, sort of. Except these are GP predictions, so you did it.
But I have the spirit.
You did have the spirit.
I said Oscar P2, Lewis P3, Lando Fail King. And I want to say, I think I got Fail King right.
You weren't wrong.
I was not wrong. Not only did this happen during the sprint, but it also happened during the race. He has fumbled it and fucked it again. And also, yet again, we've had another race of Lando Norris's engineer coaching him through how to drive an F1 car at multiple points of the weekend.
What was also crazy is and this isn't an excuse, but Oscar's engineer was doing the same thing. And to me, it's such a weird culture thing because Max and GP, I think, are an outlier when we talk about driver-engineer relationships. But it's so interesting because I don't think other engineers have that role and responsibility in their job description. You even think about Charles, who's famous for being shut the fuck up, please.
Right. I think I've heard, when I used to watch Daniel's onboards, Pierre would tell him oh, blue flags, you need to move over. That's kind of the instructions that you're supposed to get. Or it's okay, you need to maintain this delta or, power to this or, preserve battery. These are all very normal things for an engineer to coach a driver on. They also have the gear shift beeps in their head to know when to shift gears. Not in their head, but it's through their earphones. Helmet. I've never heard of a engineer coaching you on how to hit the apex.
Except we have. It happened with Daniel when he was at McLaren.
Oh, I forgot about that.
So this is clearly an institutional thing.
That's interesting. It's systemic.
I think this is a McLaren cultural thing. And it also another I think argument in my favor of how this works for them, and it didn't clearly work for Daniel, is when you bring a driver in to an established culture, which is essentially what happened with both Lando and Oscar, that's not a problem.
They're being brought up in the culture, whereas Daniel was fully formed outside of the culture and then clearly did not mesh.
And that's on adaptability too. I think there's a whole other conversation there. But the whole thing with McLaren is that they were coaching him on how to change his corner entry and exit. That is the crux of the issue.
And they didn't let Daniel be Daniel.
Right. And so clearly this is a McLaren thing.
Also, Daniel's famous for saying, Lando doesn't know what it's like to, he said this, he's Lando doesn't know what a winning car feels like. This is not a winning car.
Which it wasn't at the time.
It wasn't, and they didn't listen to him. So shall we get into the sprint?
Yeah, the only thing I have to say about the sprint is, hell yeah, brother. Max Verstappen, he's everything to me.
It feels so good to see real racing.
Well, and the funniest thing is F1 TV comms were talking about Max before the race even started. And they were yeah, Max Verstappen, whose season has been made up of incredibly beautiful qualifying laps and aggressive turn one, lap one racecraft. And I was yeah, that's my GOAT. Say it again.
Say it louder. Watching his overtake in lap one really underscored the fact for me that we have never seen Lando Norris remotely successful at anything like that.
No, racecraft as an idea is so nebulous unless you're a racer, I think, because it's hard. You can't be in that position in the way they are, but it's really hard from an outside perspective to look at Lando Norris and be yeah, that dude knows what he's doing.
Also, I saw, just speaking of the dumbest shit I've ever heard, someone said Lando Norris is the coldest driver on the grid. He has ice in his veins. And I said, do we have eyeballs?
What?
Yeah, it was just so...
Hold on. What?
I swear to God, this weekend, someone was on the record saying Lando Norris is the coldest driver currently on the grid.
Is the ice in his veins in the room with us? Blink twice if you're being held hostage. I'm genuinely concerned.
I was have we been watching anything?
Have we been watching the same weekend? Not years.
Yeah, it was the stupidest shit I've ever heard.
You know what? I'm calling it a welfare check. That's absurd. That is absurd. Oscar Piastri is right there. Do I think the Kimi Raikkonen and Oscar Piastri comparisons have kind of gotten out of hand? Yes. But if you're choosing a McLaren teammate to make a very heavy-handed comparison to Kimi Raikkonen, who, if you say the word ice cold, that's where everybody's heads go. You're choosing Lando?
I cannot think of two people who are further apart in personality than Lando Norris and Kimi Raikkonen.
I'm going to have to sit with that for a couple of business days.
I'm going to look this up real quick.
I'm so shook. Jesus Christ.
It was Zach Brown that said that.
Okay, I understand why he would say that. I still need a wellness check.
Right. He said, I think Lando Norris, is the coldest driver, the Cole Palmer of Formula One.
Who the fuck is Cole Palmer?
I couldn't tell you.
He's a football player for Chelsea? That's not even like a comparable sport.
Is he high?
Probably. He's definitely on Ozempic.
So the sprint it made me feel alive.
No, I think I texted you, like, Max winning the sprint made me feel joy and hope and see beauty in the world. And especially since this was the first weekend in Red Bull's history ever without Christian Horner as team principal. It was a good start to that part of like that era. We'll see how it goes. But unironically, Max every now and then makes me believe in like sport again.
Yeah.
Sorry being earnest on the podcast.
All of that joy and hope was brutally ripped away from us on Sunday.
Yeah. So I have a question for F1, actually.
Yeah.
So we have wet tires.
Yeah.
We have weather radar and actually hundreds of years worth of weather data.
Yeah. Farmers' almanacs, even.
Right. And you have a race schedule that you kind of have crazy control and like sway over.
Yeah.
So what's with going to a track at a place that you know is going to rain and then never letting anyone race in the rain? Are we losing the art of racing in the rain? Serious question.
Horribly sad book.
Horribly sad book. Weirdly identical to my life, but that's a story for another day.
No. And what's crazy to me too is we've seen the kind of rain that cancels a race in Spa.
Dude, they were racing in lightning in Brazil last year.
This was not the kind of rain that cancels a race or even cancels a race in Spa. 2021, I can see that argument. It was raining too damn hard, too damn long.
Even the heavy rain that happened during the hour-and-a-half rain delay, that's a red flag. And then you come back in and restart. Incredibly frustrating because on so many levels, you as a sport are equipped. And I personally think should encourage like all weather racing.
I agree.
Because that's kind of the whole point. What's the point in developing a toolbox of like wet weather specialist if F1 is like, well, if it's not perfectly sunny, we aren't racing? What's the point? What's the point in having a skill? What's the point in like separating yourself from your peers? It's incredibly frustrating from a setup perspective. F1 has always kind of gotten a lot of flack from their parc fermé rules and how incredibly restrictive they are. So if you set up based on the weather report that everyone has for a wet race, and then F1 says, I don't think we want to do that, you're fucked.
Yeah, look, I understand that Spa is an incredibly dangerous track. I agree with canceling an F3 race if it is raining too hard. I agree with canceling an F2 race if it's raining too hard. There is no reason why 2-3 years ago, Dino Van Toff should have been racing in the rain at Spa in those conditions in F3. There's no reason for it. However, the rain wasn't that bad, and these are supposedly the best drivers in the world.
And the wet tire is designed to drive the track.
Right.
Here's the thing. I don't disagree with the question of safety at Spa. It is a serious question. You have racers who've tragically crashed and died there in the wet. You have racers who've tragically crashed and died there in the dry. Pierre Gasly's friend, Antoine, comes to mind, which is a horrible, horrible story. If that's the focus, if that's the thing that we're hitting at, cancel Spa, redesign the track. That is a worthwhile use of time. That is a worthwhile conversation to have. I don't think this is that moment, and I think it cheapens the larger question. Safety at Spa.
This race, there are multiple things that should have happened or shouldn't have happened. Like, I think it definitely should have been started and then red flagged. There was no reason for it to start under a rolling start.
The rolling start was absolutely fucking bonkers. Can I just say that?
Like, what is up with that?
Here's the thing about the rolling start. Sure, whatever. You're going to hold the race until it's not raining. I disagree, but whatever. So if you agree that you're holding the race till it's dry, why the fuck are we doing a rolling start?
What are we
genuinely
doing?
Why?
What are we doing?
The more time passes, the more I'm like, man, maybe the McLaren conspiracy is true.
That's what I'm saying.
Against all odds, Lando Norris gets every chance handed to him. and then immediately drops it. Which it's like fumbling a rolling start pole is absolutely diabolical business.
You want to tell me that Lando Norris is one of the greatest drivers of all time, and then he fucks up a rolling start when he controls when they start?
You want to tell me, Zach Brown, that Lando Norris is the Cole Palmer of F1? Cole Palmer, who Wikipedia says is a playmaker, who is regarded as one of the best attacking midfields in the world. You want to say that an athlete known for being adaptable, for being a winger on flank and in the midfield, you want to say that he is left-footed and right-footed? You want to say Lando Norris is that guy?
Lando Norris doesn't even know his rights from lefts.
I would like to thank Wikipedia for sponsoring that takedown.
Also, Cole Palmer is 6'1".
Oh my God.
This weekend, Red Bull and Haas were on the stage together at the fan zone, and the difference between the Haas heights and the Red Bull heights. It looked like Taylor Swift and Bruno Mars standing next to each other.
That's too good.
I'm right.
I love that photo.
It's such a good photo. I love the Photoshopped one even more.
There is something else I want to talk about on Sunday that happened before the race ever even started. Our favorite Brittany was at the race this weekend.
The cunt that this man brought to the grid.
Brittany was there, and Brittany said, "You called?"
You said, "I heard there was a lack of cunt and chaos and whimsy."
And it was a rain delay. I will say the thing about an F1 rain delay is like you should always tune in. It's 90% boring as fuck, dry interviews, and 10% the craziest shit you've ever heard. And Nico Rosberg, who was on site this weekend for Sky Italia, he was contracted for a different thing.
He was on site inciting chaos.
He so was. So he apparently wandered into the Sky TV coverage because he, quote, got bored.
Yeah.
And went to go see what else was going on. And honestly, like in his position, many such cases, who wouldn't?
He's Nico Rosberg. He can do what he wants.
He can go where he pleases.
His access pass just says it's Brittany, bitch.
If that's false, I don't want anyone to tell me. I'm incorporating that into my worldview. So he wanders around, walks into the Sky TV area, starts just chatting with David Croft, who is famously a shit stirrer and loves to get creepy with it, get funky with it. And so they end up just kind of talking about Christian Horner and basically saying like Christian and Toto have had this huge rivalry, and now like Christian and Zach have had this huge rivalry, and now like there's a vacuum there. Who's gonna like take that next place? And David Croft, like with the heat-seeking behavior of a WMD, is like, oh, interesting you bring up a rivalry. Your championship title, would you think of it so fondly if it wasn't against Lewis? Which is an insane question to ask.
Insane question to ask.
And then almost immediately follows up with, do you miss him now? And listen, I don't like David Croft. In this moment, he's beautiful to me.
Yes.
Nico kind of like stumbles through it and is like, yeah, like it is, you know, I do think of it really fondly. And, you know, Lewis is also there and that's part of it. Sure. You know, and like, you're right in that sense.
We're neutrally on good terms now.
Yeah. And then he answers the second question being like, I'm okay, which is not an answer. David follows up again. And then goes, the best question of all, are you still next door neighbors?
Yes. Finally, the real journalism we've needed and wanted.
The hard-hitting questions. Thank you, David Croft. And apparently, I didn't know this. I knew they were like neighbors back in the day, but they still live in the same building.
Yeah, in Monaco, they
run
still
into
do.
each other.
Lewis still sends Nico's daughters Christmas presents every year.
God, fuck, I can't know these things. So then Crofty comes back at him. There's like some other questions based on like some stories from back in the day. There's a safe involved. I was like, I can't get into that. There are stories about them like wrecking apartments as kids in motorhomes. And I was like, we can't unpack all of that. And also everything else that you've just said. Then a few minutes later, Martin Brundle, who I also hate, goes, oh, we've been sent a photo.
They're so cute. They're so cute. My God.
We've been sent a photo. And apparently there's like this whole story where they would go like ATVing, and then it like pivots into a story about jet skiing. And apparently, like, Lewis went on this like crazy jet ski like run and then like came crashing down and like wasn't moving. And so Nico had to go over and make sure he was alive.
My God.
Anyways, that's crazy.
And
then he proceeded to lay a curse on Lando Norris, as is his wont.
And then he joined Martin Brundle to run around the grid and cause even more chaos.
Oh, I missed this one.
Oh my God. Okay. So they're like running around like man on the street.
Ugh, I love Man on the Street.
And he's like, where's an F1 driver? Where's an F1 driver? He goes, Valtteri. He goes, so Cadillac next year? Cadillac? You're driving for Cadillac? And Valtteri goes, well, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. And he's like, so the rumors are true. It's going to be announced. And he's like, I can't hear you. And Nico's like,
it's loud here.
See you on the grid next year. And Valtteri goes, yeah, I hope so. And then he leaves. And then he runs over to, I think, Toto. And he's like, Toto, what about Max? What happened with Max? And essentially just goes and stirs up a whole bunch of shit. Like he's running around in his Gucci and it's incredible.
I really think that when Lewis retires and Nico's kids are older and like maybe a little bit more out of the house, I think he could do that full time. I think he might.
Commentary?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. We can only hope.
I like am putting that out into the world. I'm manifesting.
Yeah, he's simply iconic.
So in all honesty, I feel like that was enough coverage from Sunday.
Yeah. The last thing that I wanted to talk about and wanted to bring in, and I think we can probably save F1 Academy again for next week. The last thing I want to talk about is Natalie Pinkham, our favorite F1 reporter.
Natalie
brought her daughter's Labubu to the grid this weekend and had all of the drivers pose with it. And it was iconic, this little strawberry Labubu. And I posted it all to her Instagram. And thank you for that incredible, vital, important journalism, Natalie. Secondly, I think that brings us to the grid as ... And I think we should do riders and drivers as types of Labubus.
Okay. I don't know anything about Labubus. I don't want to learn anything more about them. I hate to say it.
They're terrifying. For the uninitiated, the grid as ... is a moment in our podcast where we pick a handful of riders and drivers from across the great wide world of motorsports and categorize them as a person, place, thing, idea, concept, situation. And today it is going to be Labubus, either the kinds of Labubus, I guess. We don't know anything about Labubus, but we have to talk about them, I think.
Okay.
Or the situations that they were then in, if you would like to go first.
I'm taking a real creative writing approach to this, so bear with me. So a couple of weeks ago, I was on the bus going to get drinks with some of my friends downtown to celebrate a friend of mine's engagement. And I saw I would say late 60s man in a suit with his like messenger bag leaving the office and had a like bright green Labubu clipped on.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that is Jorge Lorenzo.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Who is, I think, close to the GOAT conversation, but is older and still figuring his shit out. He loves Dubai, I guess. I don't know. He's a little cringe, but he's doing his own thing, and I have to appreciate it, which is how I felt about that guy on the bus with his Labubu. Secondly, I saw something the other day that was a photo of a Labubu left on Karl Marx's grave.
I did see this. Yes. Yeah.
Which is one of two things. It is either incredibly out of fucking touch, or it's a genuine commentary on where we are as consumers.
Yeah.
And to me, that's Valentino Rossi.
I couldn't agree more. I really couldn't agree more. Very similar to you, this morning on my commute to work on the subway, there was a young girl, she might have been around 7, sitting on the train with her mom, and she had a little sparkly purse with a handful of Labubu keychains and was also wearing a sparkly Labubu shirt that is Kimi Antonelli.
Yeah, I see that.
And then I'm going to say that Lando Norris is actually the knockoff Labubu, which is a Lafufu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, did you forget that there's ice in his veins?
There's something in his veins. And on that note, I think that brings us to the end of the podcast.
It sure does.
Next week, we will likely talk some more FAQs, how-tos about MotoGP. We will finally get back into our F1 Academy coverage and have an all-around great time. Make sure to like, subscribe, rate, review, comment, engage with, share any and all mechanisms for this podcast to help us grow. We really appreciate it. We cherish it. We love it. And then come hang out with us on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, YouTube. We have a super fun time. Also our website, motomouths.com. And let's keep chatting soon.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.